Coming up on Theatre Talk.
It's a kind of affectionate look at the whole rock genre. And the wonderful thing about it is that heavy metal rock is really deeply unfashionable. And so the one thing one can say incontrovertibly about this musical, it is the uncoolest show that you can ever go and see.
Theatre Talk is made possible in part by the CUNY TV Foundation. From New York City, this is Theatre Talk. I'm Susan Haskins.
And I'm Michael Riedel of the New York Post. And I am delighted to be able to talk about a wonderful new musical this season that is not Hamilton. I have been looking for the show to back that I think is going to be a big, big winner. I saw a workshop over the summer. It is a terrific show. School of Rock, and it is being produced and composed by Andrew Lloyd Webber. Welcome to Theatre Talk, Andrew.
Thank you.
And welcome back to Broadway.
Well, thank you very much.
Now, I must confess, I went because your daughter Imogen and I are friends, and I went to School of Rock, and I thought, well, I'll have the game face on because, she's my friend, and you don't know how it's going to be a workshop, all that. And I genuinely enthusiastically love the show. It is based on the Jack Black movie.
That's right, yeah.
It manages to be charming and adorable without ever being cloying. How do you pull that off when you've got kids all over the place?
In other words, a bit like you.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you very much. But that's always the sort of danger, right? When you're doing a show that has lots of kids on it, that it could be just a little too treacly.
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, it isn't. It's really so much a story about how music empowers the kids and how it also empowers the Jack Black character.
Right.
That in a sense, it's such fun. And it's a kind of life-enhancing story in a way, I think.
Did you think of it as a musical when you first saw the movie, or is this something?
Not really. No, I saw the movie, I guess it must be probably 10 years ago now, and thought it was great fun. And it had an awful lot of quotes from rock songs in it, if you remember, and then a couple of original songs. And it never really occurred to me. Then about 3 years ago, somebody said, look, why don't you think about maybe producing it? And this is a sort of another version of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. I mean, it's something schools could do. Maybe.
Which is something you wrote for a school originally.
That's right, yes, it was originally written for a school. And I thought, yes, it could well be something that could be fun for schools to do. And I originally thought, well, maybe it's one of those things, put it together, maybe use lots of other songs in it and all of that. And then when I got into it, I realized that actually there are only two complete songs in the original movie, and everything else is like tiny fragments, and that none of them wouldn't work dramatically. And so I found myself getting ensnared into doing the score myself.
But going back to your rock and roll roots.
Well, fun, yeah, for me, because I mean, it sort of is a bit like Joseph in a way, because of the sort of the joy of it, because it has no side. That's the thing; it has absolutely no side. What you see is what you get.
Right.
And I think that's why it is hopefully not cloying at all. But it's a kind of affectionate look at the whole rock genre. And the wonderful thing about it is that heavy metal rock is really deeply unfashionable. And so the one thing one can say incontrovertibly about this musical, it is the uncoolest show that you can ever go and see. And so I think it's just fun. So it's slightly me letting my hair down and going back to the days when we did Jesus Christ Superstar. I mean, people don't really remember that me in that kind of way. But next door in the studio was Zeppelin, I mean, and Jimmy Page and all that lot were a little bit older than Tim Rice and I, but and we were all greatly in awe of them. But the Stones worked in Olympic Sound where we were. I mean, all of those bands were there. And I mean, we had on Superstar, we had the lead singer of Deep Purple. So all of that, of that sort of rock and everything. And the moment where Jesus is throwing the moneylenders out of the temple in Superstar is pure pure heavy metal.
And people think, of course, Jesus Christ Superstar is a famous musical, but I remember talking to Tim that you guys, it wasn't in your mind to be a musical, it was an album, it was a rock.
Well, yeah, I mean, what happened is that we'd written Joseph, and a lot of people said, why didn't you then take the story of Jesus Christ? And in fact, what made Tim want to write it was the thought that we could do it from Judas Iscariot's point of view. And so therefore immediately it took on a kind of slightly political tone, because it's really about Judas saying to Jesus, look, if this movement gets out of hand any further, then Rome will crush us. And it's the relationship between the two men. And we did try, I mean, we did talk about getting it produced in the theatre, but no one was interested at all. and what happened is we had the original song, which became Jesus Christ Superstar. It came out as a single with Murray Head in various countries of the world, including America and Britain, where it flopped resoundingly. But in one or two curious countries, I mean, quite why, it took off in a major way, like Australia and Brazil it took off, and Holland. And it was enough for the record company to say, do you know what, this piece that they seem to want to do, there was one guy at the record company who said, we'll put up the money to record it. But of course, we had to think of the piece as something that would work if you only heard it.
On a record.
So I'll be honest about it. Superstar works at its best when it's in a rock arena and it's done as a rock concert. Staged, I mean, a staged rock concert. There's been one just recently, which was in Britain and in Australia, which was wonderful. I mean, it is a staged concert. But I don't think it works so well in a conventional theatre, because somehow it gets straitjacketed. I often wonder what would have happened had it been, had it sort of tried out in the normal way. Probably we'd never hear of it today. Somebody would have probably said, well, we need 36 bars to change the set here, and the whole energy of the whole thing would have gone out the window.
Right. Going back to School of Rock, because I really love the score. I mean, a proper rock and roll score. But what I was curious about, when you look at the credits, Andrew Lloyd Webber, we do know that you write rock music. Glenn Slater, you're a lyricist, you've written before. Julian Fellowes.
Ah, yes.
Now, Julian Fellowes, one thinks of course, as Downton Abbey and Mary Poppins. I know he's worked on musicals before, and also an actor who I remember appearing in The Man with the Golden Gun. Remember Julian's brief acting days. Yeah. How does Julian Fellowes come to be the book writer for School of Rock?
Well, I've known Julian for quite a long time, and he's a very skilled craftsman. I mean, one of the great things about Julian, and if you look at something like a Downton Abbey and everything, is that he's brilliant with storylines that all interconnect. And I felt with School of Rock that first we needed that, because, you know, we are taking a film, and you're taking a film in the theatre to the theatre. You've got to rework it. It's a theatrical experience that we're giving. We're not trying to faithfully reproduce the film. Right. We're trying to keep the spirit of the film, of course, but you can't absolutely.
It's got to be a music.
It's got to be its own thing. Yeah. And Julian is very, very clever at all of that, with storylines, children's backstories, their relationships, all those sort of things. But the funny thing is like, you know, Julian's has a rock and roll past as well. He may not be evident in Downton Abbey, but you know anymore. But he's a writer, you know, and a writer can adapt to anything, and he completely identifies with the characters in there, and he's done a very clever job.
Am I correct that the original movie was based on Jack Black?
Oh yes, I think it's pretty much Jack Black and Mike White's baby. Yes, I mean, but I think the interesting thing about it is that whether it was intentional or not, but they kind of hit on one of those primal tales.
Yes, they did.
I mean, that's what it is. And it's a very strong central idea. And when you've got a strong central idea, then you do need a dramatist. I mean, we all know that the dramatic construction of a musical is the vital thing. Right. I mean, you know, if you've got a musical that doesn't really work construction-wise as a story, you could have written Some Enchanted Evening and nobody will ever remember it, because it's just one of those things. And I know through shows where the construction of the show's not been right, that things, you know, get buried and lost. And so it's really vital to have somebody there who knows how to fashion and craft a story. And, you know, particularly with something like this where there's a lot more script. I mean, look, this is slightly off-duty me, because I've just had a lot of fun, and I make no claims for this whatsoever as anything other than as a bit of fun. But there's a lot more dialogue than there is in most of my shows.
Right. I've also noticed, because in the past we're using the Andrew Lloyd Webber presents, the big Andrew Lloyd Webber, the name bigger than the title. But you have deliberately, it seems to me, kept yourself sort of below the title, if you will. It's not Andrew Lloyd Webber School of Rock.
I feel I'm sort of steering it, the work of somebody else in a way. I mean, it is still the Mike White movie. I mean, it's what he wrote, and hopefully we've been very, very true to that. And I don't want people to sort of think that this is a great, it's some great, huge new thing by me. It's just me having a lot of fun and doing something that I really actually care about, which is doing something for these kids.
Right.
I mean, music in education is a vital, vital thing. And these days where the people cut back on the arts, certainly back in Britain they have been, and I know similar things have been happening in schools here, people forget how important music is. I mean, I've been involved with a scheme in Britain where we took a school. I got involved with a school which was, I mean, frankly, off the radar. It was a sink school it was what you would call a public school, but in a very, very deprived area. 46 different languages spoken in the school, and it was literally going to be closed. And they did this experiment, which was that every child arriving in the particular year where the experiment was conducted was given a free violin. And in many cases, it was the first thing these children ever owned. For a week, they were taught how to play the violin. And from then onwards, music in some form became part of the curriculum. The consequence was that everything to do with math improved, everything to do with understanding language, it was extraordinary. Last year, they got their first place at Oxford University. And the school is now, totally reversed. And we've been trying that now, and I now have 3,000 kids who have been given free instruments and this, that, and the other.
And you provide the instruments?
And I provide them, and we provide music tuition now for them through their entire school life. And I mean, it is so rewarding because you see what happens. This is not to try to turn them into musicians. It's not to try and make them professional musicians, but it's not for nothing really that in certain areas music is banned because people don't like the good effect that music can have. I mean, you can think of certain organisations around the world who do specialise in making sure that music is nowhere a part of it. So, School of Rock for me is, one of the reasons I very much want it to go immediately. We've sort of set it to schools and colleges here, and everybody, is because I want it to be performed by schools. I think it's important. That's the new generation who may or may not find what we love as theatre nuts, but they may or may not. But
music can lead them somewhere else.
But it can lead them in so many ways to empower people. That's all I really want from School of Rock, is that it just entertains and brings kids to music.
One of the things I like so much about the workshop that I saw over the summer was you haven't cast kids who are professional actors, if you will. You found kids who play instruments in their school.
Yes. I did not personally see 22,000 children, but I did see the last sort of 30 of them, and they have to be able to play.
They really play the
They
instruments.
really have to play, yes. I mean, otherwise, the whole thing's pointless. When you can't have some sort of old guitarist in the pit, trying to. You can't. You simply can't. So the whole joy of it is that they play.
I remember hearing a story of a little girl. I've forgotten her name. Adorable. I think she came and she played one instrument, and you'd already cast it, and you said, "Can you play the bass?"
Oh, that's right. Yes.
What was that story?
Oh, yes. There's a girl who plays Kate. She came in and she played the guitar.
Right.
But she looked so perfect for the bass. We just said, "Could you learn the bass?" Well, she came back a few days later, having learnt the bass, and she's now our bass player.
And the bass is three times the size of her.
Yes.
It's adorable. In your own history, your own background, music, of course, absolutely essential to you because your father was a
yes. I was lucky as I grew up in a background where all kinds of music happened. It wasn't. There was rock, in my case, and theatre music in my case. but there was everything. Because my father was the boss of the London College of Music.
Right.
And so we just was around the house all the time. And it was a mental place. And there was a guy who my mother rather befriended, who was a bit older than me, who won the Tchaikovsky competition eventually as a pianist. And
your brother as a classical
my brother
cellist.
was attracted. So I was turning the pages for this guy, and he was learning Prokofiev and all these things. So it was all sort of, there was never any barrier between any type of music. Nothing was ever in a box in our home. I mean, if I brought home a great rock record, I remember my father once saying there was a band in Britain called the Shadows. They weren't big here, but they. I remember him saying, my father saying, I think that they're probably the best quartet working around at the moment. I mean, he had a very
So he wasn't
view.
a snob about music.
No, and he slunked me in when I was 7 years old to a film which was you're not supposed to have seen in Britain. Well, at that time, I think you had to be 14 or 16, which was Jailhouse Rock. So I mean, I saw sort of Elvis in Jailhouse Rock back to back with my love, which I don't know really where I got it from, but I mean, I was always in love with musicals. So I saw things like Jailhouse Rock as, oh, that's just another musical. I never, because half the time in Britain, you see, at the time when I was a boy, the Rodgers and Hammerstein musicals had happened,
right,
with the exception of The Sound of Music, which of course was sort of pretty much my time.
Right.
But all of the older ones and Oklahomas and things had gone. So of course my experience of all of those was through film.
Right, the movies, the Hollywood movie version.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got the sense in reading about your background and talking to Tim, because Tim lived in your house, right?
Yes, he did, yes.
I mean, it was a very bohemian household, wasn't it? Of people just
was.
kind of floating through.
It was extremely bohemian. I mean, there was my brother playing the cello. There was my father who had an electronic organ because he was an organist as well, and he playing him. There was John Lill playing the piano. There was me with my rock, all of this. My brother was playing the cello one day, particularly loudly, and he was, I can't remember exactly, I think he was doing, I think he was learning the Shostakovich cello concerto. And anyway, Tim Rice and I went down the staircase to the flat below, and the door opened, and as Julian was playing the cello up there, and the guy kept out of it and said, I don't mind the piano, I don't even mind that rock stuff, but it's the oboe player I can't stand.
Where did your mother fit into this whole world?
Well, she was
music?
a sort of deeply socialist sort of woman who used to go, and that's another thing I suppose rubbed off on me. She used to go down to the East End of London, and that's where she discovered John Lill, the pianist.
Oh, yeah.
And she used to teach kids, free on Saturday afternoons music.
Oh, so your mother was a musician too?
Yeah, she was a music teacher.
Oh.
And she was a very good piano teacher. Mm-hmm. Not with me, I have to say, that little rubbed off.
Are you a good do you consider yourself?
I can play well enough for my own music, but I'm not a great pianist.
Interesting. Did your parents live long enough to see your success?
Yes.
Saw the big hits?
Yes, my father died in 1983, but he saw Cats here. So he did come to Broadway for that, and that was the last one he saw. It's quite interesting because he was quite a high romantic, and he loved all his Rachmaninoff and all of those things. And I would have loved to have known what he would have made of Phantom of the Opera, quite honestly.
Which is your romantic musical.
Well, which was my big, romance. Yes.
I did want to ask you about Phantom because I went to a screening of the Lon Chaney movie. In the United Palace Theater up in Washington Heights, which is one of these grand old movie palaces.
Yes, I know it. Yes.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
And there's a new print of the Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of cast members from your show who sang a song afterward. And what I was struck by was that until your version of the Phantom of the Opera, I always thought of it as a horror movie.
Yes.
Lon Chaney is a scary ghoul.
Yes. So did I. In fact, what happened was when I was engaged to Sarah Brightman, she was offered the role of Christine in a version of it that was going to be done at Joan Littlewood's theatre in the Theatre Royal Stratford East. It was going to try out in Newcastle, and it was written by a guy called Ken Hill, who's dead now, sadly. And it was a sort of jokey script. It was a sort of half horror movie, half, dare I say, Rocky Horror Show, really.
Yeah, with a camp element.
Yeah, it was a bit like that. Yeah. And they were going to use real opera, and I said to Sarah, well, you could do it for fun, but it never occurred to me there was anything remotely for me. But then Cameron Mackintosh and I thought, do you know what? It might be quite fun if we got involved and we just maybe produced it together and did it, as a fun piece, and that was the end of that. But because of the Rocky Horror Show putting ingredient of it, we got in touch with Jim Sharman, who directed the Rocky Horror Show, because Jim Sharman had directed the Australian and London version of Jesus Christ Superstar. And Jim said to me, he said, well, you should do it. I said, you've got to be joking. So end of story. A year later, I was in New York, and I was doing nothing in the afternoon. Well, actually, I was going to go to the Tony Award, pre-Tony Award thing for the nominees,
right,
for a musical that I can't remember which one it was, but one which was definitely no way I could possibly ever win it. And I was thinking, anyway. And as I'm walking down Fifth Avenue, there's one of those bookstores, and I saw The Phantom of the Opera, and I thought, I'm not doing anything. So I read the book in the afternoon. And as it happened, at the Tony Award thing, I ran into Hal Prince, who I hadn't seen for a long time. And Hal was, for a musical, was definitely not going to win anything either.
Probably like Grind, the year of Grind or something.
It might have been, or Doll's Life, or one of those things.
Yes.
And I mean, it was something in mind that was definitely not going to happen. And so we went and had a drink afterwards, and I said, I've just read this book called The Phantom of the Opera, and it's completely different to what I thought it was, because it's very confused, the book. I mean, it can't make its mind up whether it is a horror story or a detective story or a romance or high romance. And the last line of it is that when the Phantom's body was apparently exhumed or something, that on his finger was discovered Christine's ring. I thought, ooh, hang on. So Hal said, well, why don't you have a crack at doing it? And I said, Hal, you don't do high romance. He said, I think it's time I did high romance. And I said, well, I think it's time I did high romance, so I'll have a crack at it and see what happens. And that's exactly what happened.
Now, on School of Rock, I thought it worked so well in the Gramercy Theater, which is smaller. Do you ever worry when you take something that is rather an intimate show and you've got to move it to a big Broadway theater?
This always is the big...
That's always the problem, right?
Always the problem. I mean, one of the things, as we all know, is that very often a show will work in a small space and you think it's kind of the best thing you've ever seen, and then it goes into the bigger space and it doesn't work for some reason. I mean, or I'll know sort of when we preview on Monday.
Well, how do you prevent that from
What
happening?
theater are
You've
you
done
in?
this, the Winter Garden.
We're in the Winter Garden. And
you had a little success there before.
Well, the thing about the Winter Garden is that, yes, like it's a big Broadway theatre, but one of the reasons I was very pleased and thought that it would be the right one for us when it was offered is because Cats had the similar problem. And I mean, we've obviously got children, and it's the question of the intimacy and the relation of the house with the children. And although it's a big house, you can come forward because of the odd shape of the Winter Garden.
It used to be a horse ring.
That's right. It was an auction house, wasn't it, for horses?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't come much forward, but you can have much more contact with the audience there because of the shape of the building than you can in quite a few. And so that was a really powerful reason for going to the Winter Garden. But having said that, yes, it's got a big design. It has to.
We have to wrap it up, but I'm just curious, what is Andrew Lloyd Webber listening to at the very first paid performance of his new show? Are you at the back of the house? What are you watching?
I've got another role here, as well, obviously being the producer as well. And one of the things, actually, this is the first time I've ever produced anything on Broadway, and certainly the first time I've ever produced anything original, started anything here. One of the things that I always take away from Hal Prince is something he told me when I was a very young man, long before we worked on Evita, which he said, Andrew, you can't listen to music if you can't look at it.
You can't listen?
You can't listen to music if you can't look at it. What he meant was the stage picture was wrong, that psychologically you can't take it in. So one of the things I'm looking at right now is does it look right? I mean, it doesn't have to look expensive. I'm not saying that.
Right.
It's got to look right.
Right.
And I've been bitten by that with design. I mean, I'll be frank, the London production of my Phantom sequel, Love Never Dies, didn't work. A lot of it is because it didn't really happen as a production. And the Australian production, which is hopefully now going to come here in some guise.
Which I saw in a film version, which was very good.
Well, it is very good, but the reason is that the production fits it. Go back to Chicago. Do you remember the original production of Chicago?
I'm a bit young for that.
Yeah, well,
the Fosse one.
Which I did see.
You saw it, yeah.
And it sort of didn't quite work. But given the other, the production, which then became, the one that went around the world, out of the revival, that was totally different.
Yeah.
And it worked because it was right for it.
Yeah. I always thought one of my favorite scores of yours is Sunset Boulevard, but that Broadway production, while beautiful, Trevor's production, it almost seemed too big for what is essentially a very intimate story.
Well, yes, I mean, it's been done now. Glenn Close is doing it in London at the English National Opera, which will be very interesting to see. And I think it'll probably get filmed now, which is exciting. But yes, I mean, again, that's now been done in many other different ways now. And I take your point. I mean, there were elements of that production that really did work, and there were one or two that I think perhaps, today one could do differently.
Yeah.
Particularly because you can, with the car chase, for example, you could use projection in a different way.
Right. All right, the new Andrew Lloyd Webber show with Glenn Slater, the lyricist, and Julian Fellowes, the book writer, is School of Rock, about to open, or maybe has opened when this airs, at the Winter Garden Theater. We wish you the best of luck with School of Rock, Andrew.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being our guest tonight on the Theater Talk.
Thank you.
Now repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the band.
I pledge allegiance to the
And I promise to give Mr. Schneebly full command.
I promise to give Mr. Schneebly full
And we'll be in control of the band as a whole. We will rock and we'll roll with our heart and our soul. If you're in, raise your hand.
I'm in the band.
Yes.
I'm in the band. I'm in the band. I'm in the band. I'm in the band. I'm in the band.
Yes, you're in the band.
I'm in the band.
You're in the band. You're in the band.
Our thanks to the Friends of Theater Talk for their significant contribution to this production. Theater Talk is made possible in part by the Frederick Lowe Foundation, the Corey and Bob Dinelli Charitable Fund, the Noel Coward Foundation, Carrie J. Fries, the Dorothy Strelson Foundation, and the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs.
We welcome your questions or comments for Theater Talk. Thank you.